This episode is sponsored by Local First Arizona. Local First Arizona is dedicated to the success of Arizona's locally owned businesses and communities across the state, including Tucson. As the largest local business coalition in the country, Local First assists independently owned businesses of all sizes create jobs and strengthen the local economy. Local First also works to achieve racial equity, reduce environmental impacts, improve healthy food access, and develop economic opportunity in rural, tribal, and urban communities. Learn more at localfirstaz.com and find a directory of locally owned businesses near you. This episode is sponsored by Brickbox Brewery, a new company concept brought to you by Thunder Canyon Brewery team, bringing a new take on downtown Tucson entertainment, dining, and nightlife, continuing to provide space for art and community with the goal of inclusion and prosperity. Starting April, Thunder Canyon Brewery becomes Brickbox, located at 220 East Broadway Boulevard, downtown Tucson. A smartphone can be one of two things. It can be an ATM machine. That's how an entrepreneur is going to look at it. And as a consumer, unknowingly in a way, it's a slot machine. And I say a slot machine because if you're not careful, it can pretty much render you to a place of where your attention is wasted as a currency, and the most important asset we have is time.
When did you get started writing, and how have you progressed to get to the position you're in now?
I took the circuitous route as a writer to arrive at where I'm at. Where it started, 8th grade. I think it was an innate thing with as far as writing, but where I can pinpoint the mark where it started was in 8th grade with Mrs. Welch in my English class at Booth Fickett Middle School. And I wrote an essay, a paper of some sort, and she questioned whether or not I did it. So I said, yeah, I did it. So she said, okay, well, it seems pretty advanced. Can you do it again tomorrow? In 30 minutes, I'm going to time you. I said, yeah, just give me my classmates as an audience so I can prove you wrong. Because she wasn't aware. My dad is an educator, both my parents. So I was reading books like Race Matters by Dr. Cornel West. So I was pretty advanced as far as my reading comprehension and writing. So lo and behold, I wrote the paper in 30 minutes. It was on like ingenuity and like the plight, of people here in America. So I completed it. She gave me her nod, tip of the cap. I got to be braggadocious with my classmates or whatnot. It was a proud moment. Fast forward, my sophomore year in high school, same thing happened to Tucson High, Mr. Dudash, English. Yes, I'm going to be dropping some names too, so I'll forget now. I'm magnanimous, I forgive, but this is part of my story. So the same thing happened. He questioned if I wrote a paper. My parents got involved this time. And they said, yeah, he wrote the paper. That year, down the road, we had a basketball banquet in the cafeteria, and I was going to be awarded the MVP that season. So I got there early. I was excited. I could still see myself in the cafeteria. I was sitting there, and I pulled out my notebook, and I think I was kind of thinking of like my mortality as an athlete. I've always been an incorrigible, optimist, so I felt like I was going to the league. I was going to play at Georgetown University like Allen Iverson, but at this particular moment, it was like a moment of clarity as far as both sides of the spectrum of what if you don't make it. And I just wrote down some things that I wanted to do as a backup. The main thing was a writer. I can distinctly remember, I can still see the pencil sliding across the notebook. I said, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write different, genres of books. Fast forward, I'm in college. I'd gotten pretty good to where I didn't write drafts. So every paper I procrastinate to the last minute, I'd turn in my paper, I would get an A. Fast forward, my first job out of college, I was working for a behavioral health agency as a case manager. And it was during the probationary period, I think the first 6 to 9 months, whatever. I wasn't really trained as much. I was like an independent living specialist. And so you have to do a lot on your own. So I was terminated. So I was pretty pissed off. I wrote like a letter to the CEO. And so he called a meeting. He brought me in and he said, listen, it's probationary. I can't give you back your job, but have you ever considered a career in writing? I said, man, I'm not thinking of writing. I just want my gig back. I'm trying to get, a paycheck. So I really didn't hear him properly. But I never forgot that. Fast forward, I kept writing little short stories, poetry, essays. I kept it pretty locked in, almost like clandestine. I started showing them to people later on. And a few people were really, really influential in pushing me to come out with my writing. The first person, a friend of mine, her name's, we went to high school together, her name's Vanessa Carranza. And I told her that I write. And she said, hey, give me a call. I want to do a little exercise or whatever. So I was like, cool. I called her. She said, you have any poetry? I said, yeah. So she said, read one. I read it. She said, you remind me of this spoken word artist named Rudy Francisco. I didn't know who that was. So I looked him up. Really good. So that was her seed that she dropped. Another friend, Tanya Verduzco, a local artist here in town, I shared some work with her, some writing. And she promptly became this gadfly, this irritant that she would literally text me every day. Have you published yet? Have you gotten on Instagram? Because at the time, I was a Facebook warrior. I wasn't on any other social media outlet. I was archaic with it. And it was every day. Every day she would text me, have you published? Have you put up a Instagram account? And I was like, yo, I don't know how to publish. I don't know how to, I'm just in here just writing, whatever. Another friend, Mike Luke, a good friend of mine, I shared some writings with him. And he called me at 5 in the morning. He never used to get up early. He does now, but he got up early. He called me at about 5 a.m. I don't know why I had my phone in my room. I picked up. He said, I'm going to keep calling you until you send all of these writings to the New Yorker, New York Times. You need to freelance, right? So I said, okay. I did that. I got some really good feedback from some editors. One in particular told me how to get past certain doors, get some things published. And then I still wasn't publishing. 2020 hit. The George Floyd occurrence, happened. And I went on a thumb rant on Facebook. Pretty explicit, just tirade. And serendipity found me, or connected me, aligned me with a local photographer named Catherine Dreyer. And she was doing a project, and she asked me to convert that to an essay. I converted it. She texted me the next day and let me know that it essentially gone viral. With thousands of likes, shares. So at that point, I knew, okay, I can't sleep on my gifts any longer. To see that many people reacting to my writing, I knew I had to do something about it. And most importantly, my mom. Your mom's always going to support you in most cases. My mom, I got a great mother, and she's always telling me you need to publish. You need to publish. She was telling me that since I was in junior high. So to have that type of confidence instilled in me from, my mother, that gave me an indefatigable fuel to pursue that somehow, some way, even when I didn't know how to. I figured it out through a lot of research. I published my first book, which was a compilation of poetry. It's called My Train is on Schedule. And I started with poetry because I wanted it to serve as like an appetizer, to kind of test the waters. It became an instantaneous bestseller within 48 hours. To test myself to make sure it wasn't a fluke, I released another one. From here, from the Observer to the Observer. 3 months later, it became a bestseller. So I said, I got something. I was interviewed through a television show through CBS, interviewed through Arizona Public Media, NPR, and so here I am today, full-fledged.
You said, so when you were in school in 8th grade and 10th grade, and you had those teachers who were saying, no, you didn't write this, did that ever kind of drive you to kind of hone in on it more?
Well, by nature, I'm a fierce competitor, so yeah, it pissed me off.
Yeah.
It was, I'll show you, so that was more fuel, more wood to throw into the fireplace.
Right. Now in high school, and your first career path that you wanted to pursue was basketball.
Absolutely.
And you played that competitively, at least through high school. Did you go into college too and play?
Yes, I played competitively since that was my first love. My father was an All-American in high school. He played JUCO, and then he had my sister, him and my mom. He was young. They were like 19, 20. So he did the responsible thing. He came back home. He had offers to Kansas, came back home, married my mother, started a family, became an educator, both of them. I was born in the basketball womb. Came up playing, wanted to play in the league, wanted to play collegiate basketball. I was a precocious basketball player, so by the time I was probably 15 or 16, I was able to do some pretty amazing things on the basketball court. I was ranked top 20 on the West Coast, point guards. I went to a camp, Adidas camp, double pump camp in California. Really hit on the map there. I played varsity 4 years. I went through 4 coaches in high school. I was real political, being the son of a father who won the last state championship at Tucson High, where I went to. So from there, I had offers. I was recruited from many places across the country. Going into my senior year, I broke my foot. There was a rumor that my knee was injured, so a lot of the recruiters were scared off.
Pulled out, yeah.
So then my senior year, I got my fourth coach. We had a coach. We had a grossly talented team, and we played an up-tempo style, like on our own, but our coach came in and pretty much put the Princeton style on us. He put worker boots on a bunch of thoroughbreds. And for me, I was a high scorer. I averaged 20 points like my sophomore and junior years. So he came to me and he said, hey, like, you're a high scoring point guard. Can you sacrifice your game and distribute average 10 assists a game? I said, fine. Did my part. He really didn't do his part. Like I said, we had an abundance of talent, and we went to state. We lost. not in the finals, but I think like the semifinals. And so that was that. I still had some recruitment. I went to a JUCO, Mesa Community College. It was another coach, another situation. By then, it was just like, you know what? I want to maintain my love for the game. I saw my father play until he was in his 50s. And I said, that's what I want to do. It's not important for me to get to the league anymore. And all my stuff is verifiable. I don't have any qualms about, not going and playing this or that. So that was that. But it definitely stoked my competitive nature, and it allowed me to do many things in life that, and I continue to play ball still.
Do you find any parallels between the discipline and teamwork required in basketball and the creative process in writing?
Absolutely. Basketball for me is analogous to a writer in that you have to work on many facets of your game, so to speak. So for basketball, to have a full repertoire as far as a skill set, you want to be good at passing, want to be good at rebounding, dribbling, shooting. So I worked on every aspect of my game. So that's a transferable skill when it comes to being a writer. And I believe that's what allows me to jump from genre to genre. So I can write poetry, essays, different types of novels. So that's what I apply to that.
So you recently released your latest book, Return of the Observer. What inspired the title, and could you give us kind of an overview of what readers can expect when they read it?
Yeah, to piggyback off of what I just spoke on as far as writing in different genres. The first two poetry books, they were the appetizers. So the second one was entitled From the Observer to the Observed. So with the release of this book, Return of the Observer, it was like a play on words with titles. And it's a book of essays, so I'm switching genres. And with these works, I speak on a multitude of topics, whether it be spiritual, development, relationships. So it was in poetry form, now it's in essay form, and you get a lot of the same stories, the back end of certain stories from that poetry book and this book of essays.
How do you hope your writing will resonate with your readers?
I want to challenge the reader. I want feelings and emotions to be evoked. Our country in particular, we have a very low literacy rate. So when you read my works, it's challenging in a sense because you'll see sophisticated terminology. So I've had readers, reach out to me and say, wow, like there were some words in this book. And I'm like, yeah, I want you to go to the dictionary and learn these words, just like I did. So I want it to also be thought-provoking. There are different subjects that I will go into that many other writers are afraid to go into. And that's for a reason. I will go into those spaces to navigate. And that is my aim. I came up reading James Baldwin. I came up reading Maya Angelou, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Leo Tolstoy. I can go anywhere with it, so that's what I want to do. I want to bring back the mindset of the classics so that people really enjoy reading.
So I haven't gotten through it yet. I'm about halfway through.
Yeah.
But one piece from it that I really personally resonated with was you had talked about going through a digital detox.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that is, and can you also how you kind of navigate maintaining healthy relationships, trying to build a business online, and also maintaining a healthy relationship with social media?
Yeah, well, to begin, I feel like that piece is identifiable to any and everyone because we live in a time where we're so tethered to these electronic devices. I'm not exempt. I go through periods of time where I'm sitting there scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So I believe it's necessary to have certain breaks. And so that's why that thought, that concept resonated with me. And it's another way of challenging people to say, hey, we're disintegrating as far as our intimacy and human contact. I coined like a phrase, scroll babies, not scroll babies, screen babies, where you have a lot of the kids, they're so tethered to the screens where if you remove this screen and you try to have a conversation, they're inept. they're totally bereft when it comes to, just conversation.
Right. And now it's, you got the first generation that grew up entirely from start to where they are now.
Yeah.
On their phones or on a device
Yeah.
and on social media.
Hey, I can go to a child, and they can tell me things on my smartphone that I don't know.
Oh, same.
So it has its pros and its cons. As far as a business, I look at it this way. This is my evolution using a smartphone. At one time, I was totally inundated, like most people, by the comments, on social media. I'd be arguing back and forth. Who's better, LeBron or Jordan? Posting like just innumerable miscellaneous like BS just throughout the day. That's the consumer route, I feel like. But as an entrepreneur, there's another side where you can look at your phone and you can say, hey, like, there's a lot of money to be made off of this. I published my first book off the strength of a smartphone. From the research to posting on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and people started to buy it. And one analogy that I really came up with is a smartphone can be one of two things. It can be an ATM machine. That's how an entrepreneur is going to look at it. And as a consumer, unknowingly in a way, it's a slot machine. And I say a slot machine because if you're not careful, it can pretty much render you to a place of where your attention is wasted as a currency. And the most important asset we have is time. So you're going to be on here and you're going to scroll and just go through stuff, be a consumer. You're ordering stuff from Amazon, packages, whatever, what have you. But me, I choose to be an entrepreneur with this phone and convert it to an ATM. So when I post with intention. I will share things strategically to show myself on a personal, intimate level, but I'm also safeguarding my privacy at the same time.
I feel like I get caught up doing that, even though, I go on and try to advertise my business. It's just really easy to fall into that trap of it being a slot machine. You always just start scrolling, and then all of a sudden you look up, and an hour and a half's gone by. You haven't done anything.
Yeah, and it's human propensity to do that. Like, I do it.
Yeah.
But I think my intention in writing that piece on digital detox was challenging myself, because doing the research for that piece, it's like, man, how blue light affects, you going to sleep. Some of the side effects, insomnia. I don't even sleep with my phone in my room anymore, so it doesn't distract me. And I put it on silent.
That's smart. I don't.
But I will wake up and, I get to it. If I don't meditate first, like I'm on the phone. Then relationship-wise, sometimes I have to catch myself if I'm, with my girlfriend, my lady, my partner, and I'm sitting there and she's like, hey, like, this is our time. So you never want to do that. That's the one with that.
With your diverse range of writing styles, how do you approach transitioning into different genres? Is it difficult? Is it a different approach to it?
No. From how I've trained myself, again, back to the analogy of basketball, it's like training yourself dribbling for one session, and then the next session, you're shooting. So I can look at poetry as, this is my dribbling.
Sure.
I can look at essays as, this is my shooting. A novel, this is my defense. So as long as I approach it that way, I feel like I can seamlessly, transfer those serves, those skills.
Have you ever tried to delve into a new genre and found that you couldn't find your footing, or you made an attempt and failed?
I look at, as far as failure, it helps you fail forward. Like John C. Maxwell's book, Failing Forward. And I look at as far as like wins and losses, I don't see losses, I see lessons. So whatever I've done that have been perceived as a fail, I just use that to get better. I'm sure along the way, once I came, after years and years and years of shelving a gift with writing, once I was able to hurdle, that as far as my vulnerability. Once you get past your vulnerability as a writer, like when I said earlier, the project with the photographer Catherine Dreyer, once I saw thousands of people that had read my thoughts that had come from my mind through a pen, I was okay. So that was really the biggest failure, was not trying, not coming out. So that's how I look at that.
You've written for a variety of different publications. What are your thoughts on freelancing for other publications versus self-publishing your own work?
Well, again, basketball, freelancing for certain publications is like playing for an organization or a team where there are like rules. You got to play the fundamental way. You have guidelines. You have deadlines you have to meet. As far as publishing my own works, I can color outside of the lines. I can create at a volume of Griselda Records. They pump out albums all the time. And I use that model. I remember in 2020 hiking, listening to Griselda, and the epiphany hit me, the eureka moment, the aha moment of, these dudes are pumping out albums like every month. So I'm going to put that into my writing. So that's the advantage of publishing on your own. You can write things within your sphere at your own volume. So that's the difference. But I like to do both. I like to couple both.
Okay.
It's like being a playground legend and a player, within, whistleball, the way you're good there too.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, is the idea of having a publication reach out with a paycheck ever more appealing than, sitting down and taking the gamble on yourself and trying to sell directly to the consumer?
I like both. My confidence says that, I can produce works from here to eternity and generate, whatever I want to make through that. But then there also is the allure of a big publication where, a big entity, so to speak. And again, I go back with a lot of analogies through basketball and also rap, being a hip-hop baby. So somebody, for example, like Larry June, for years, he was popping his trunk and bringing his material straight from himself to the consumer as an independent. That's how I see myself. Years later, Larry June, boom. This big album, The Alchemist, producing, that's my aim.
Yeah.
I want to be able to show, just like Master P, I want to be able to show that I can do it on my own and then sit down in a boardroom with a bunch of shirts and ties and say, hey, this is what I'm capable of doing. I can continue to do it on my own. I don't need you, but we can negotiate this, and I would love to be a part of that.
So you recently started your own independent publishing company, Teach One Publishing.
Yes.
What do you aim to achieve with it?
An infinitude of things. I think with Teach One Publishing, that came about because when I published my first couple of books, I had a lot of people come to me and say, how can you publish? How can you publish? So with, again, time being our greatest asset, I realized I want to give back. I want to help people, but I can't do it for free because I'm still, cultivating my own craft, as an author and as a writer. And there is a difference between an author and a writer. I encourage people, everyone has a testimonial. So that affords you the ability to be an author. But there's a difference between a writer. A writer takes a little bit more. A writer, I came up with 4 things that are required for you to be a writer from my standpoint, what I believe. Number 1, you have to be a voracious reader. Number 2, you have to learn at least 10 words a week to expand on your vocabulary. 3, you have to use your observation in a world that is abundant with material. And number 4, lastly, you have to tap into a reservoir of imagination. If you can do those 4 things, I think that's what distinguishes you as a writer. And you also have to do it. You have to love it. You have to practice it, and go into it every day. Every day. Those are the differences. So that's where Teach One Publishing came about for me internally. And also, I wanted to blend not only an author, but an entrepreneur and be an authorpreneur. So I have different ventures that I can do and not just rely on. It's great, passive income, the royalties of, your books, but I wanted to do more than that. And so that's what this allows me to do, to provide services to people.
How do you see your writing evolving in the future? Are there any different themes or genres that you're excited about exploring?
Novels, which will be explored this year, graphic novel, romance novels, screenplays, movies. I don't think I have any limits. My friend Shay West, who we interviewed earlier during season 1, the day I met him, a friend introduced us and he said, "Hey, this is Marquez Price. He's a best-selling author." And he said Limitless, which is the movie. So we speak in movie references. So that's how I see myself, as limitless when it comes as far as what I want to do with my craft.
Are there any specific upcoming projects or collaborations that you're excited about?
Yes. I'm usually close to the vest as far as what type of book I'm going to put out. I will put out 2 novels this year. I'll be switching genres again, from essays to novels. One of them will be a short story, graphic novel mix, and another will be a novel. I don't want to say what, because I like to just appear out of nowhere. And another project that I'm excited about, I will be featured on Cash Lansky's album as the spoken word
list
and outro. From that, I'm going to take that and do my own spoken word album with a musician here in Tucson, Arizona. He goes by Mike TV.
Yeah.
Dylan Barnes. He's incredibly gifted. I don't even know how to describe his ability. It's amorphous. It's transcendent. So we're currently working on something as far as a spoken word album. I had a couple people I wanted to feature, but as far as like ties of labels and everything, I narrowed it down. So I'll probably feature Ruth.
Sure.
For
singer?
Yes, singing. She's a singer. I saw her about a year ago for the first time at Thunder Canyon Brewery, and immediately I was reminded of Amy Winehouse.
That's high praise.
Yeah. Her voice, power, and delivery was way beyond her human stature. And when I see different people that are talented, luminaries, we have a lot here in Tucson, Arizona, I get inspired to collaborate, because it's not about competition for me, it's collaboration. And another person, if she musters up the courage to be on the album, is my partner, Fiona Phoenix. She's going to do the outro.
Hell yeah.
So I think I'm going to stay with those 2 for the album. Imagine the fortune of having a father, juxtaposed by the survivor's guilt you feel when you see your peers endure adversity without one. Like when I started hooping as a shorty, learning how to dribble opposite directions, coaching me. My pops was my right hand, but a lot of the homies' fathers had left, leaving most of them without the handle I had to weave and wiggle through life when it set traps. For turnovers that the generational curse of a fatherless child inherits. Some of them learn how to pivot out of that full court pressure. The example of a man named Cash rules everything around him to protect his family, like Meyer Lansky, Miss Tammy's oldest of 3, with no father figure getting game from a nigga with no father figure. I wish I could have shared my father with you, because that was raw. When you said you got your pop's number but feel like you can't call. Hopefully you can at some point, as there will be healing in that conversation for both of you. Because I met this brother for the first time one day. He was grieving on how he had just lost his estranged father, only to pass away 48 hours later himself. His 8-year-old son found him, and I found a role in that 8-year-old kid's life when he changed mine through his mother, my dream woman. Because even without kids of my own yet, I understood when you said the greatest honor on this earth is that you get to be a dad with the woman of your dreams. We all needed kings, like you and I growing up. You broke that pattern, Cash. To be the man of the house. But as far as pushing Teach One Publishing forward, I will be coming out with a Teach One Publishing network through YouTube, where I'll do a lot of tutorials, ebooks, course books, through videos, content, out of my own home office. I have my logo painted that was done by West Styles here, Tucson. So I'll be doing that. As far as the entrepreneurship, I figured out a way to tap into that and broaden my horizon. I have reading clubs with elementaries, middle schools, public libraries that I'm in talks with right now to get contracts for. I'll be doing a speaking engagement, paid speaking engagement with the University of Arizona. And hopefully I'll be able to have that as an annual retainer. From that, I drew up a proposal, sent it to Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University, Grand Canyon State University, and Pima Community College. So I will have paid speaking engagements there. I'll take that. I'll go to USC, UCLA, California, Berkeley. Then I'll go to different regions across the country. Merchandise, again, I mentioned West Styles. So I'll take this logo and I will have different artists locally that I really like, respect, and have them create variations of this logo. And I will make shirts, hoodies, hats, because mathematically I know everybody has a shirt. Everybody needs a shirt. And I know that if I sell 10 shirts a day at $35, that'll yield me $10,000 a month. So those are the types of things and hustles that I'm going to be doing to push myself forward. I'm fully independent. I finance myself. That's something that's important and I need to say. I have a 9-to-5 gig. I use that gig to be my investor. How do I use it to be my investor? I live below my means. And then I do other things. I do side hustles. I do gigs to make money. I take that money, I flip it, and I put it into my own publishing company. This past weekend, I'm still tied in with the basketball community very heavily. There was a tournament, a youth tournament, regional tournament for youth, junior high, high school. So I do some officiating. I do training. This past weekend, I did the tournament. I did 18 games between Saturday and Sunday at $40 a game. So you do the math, that's in a weekend.
Not great at math. But.
Yeah. And I do that every weekend. Sometimes the tournaments aren't as big, but I'm usually doing about 10 games a weekend. And I just take that money, flip it like Dame Dash encourages. So, and like yourself, the serendipity when I met you, I think it's also important. Like I have a lot of people that come to me and say, hey, like, I need a videographer. Like I just met you and we're just doing this stuff for free. Like you have your own business too, Squeeze Films. And so it's important to know that, hey, like if you want services for different companies, you have to pay to plug. Nothing's for free. Also with Teach One Publishing, I do something different in that it's a Proud to Pay campaign. And I have a pay scale that ranges from $5 to $250. So if I offer a service, I allow the client or customer, I call them partner, because I partner with them. They determine the value, and then they pay me what they want. And I know that method works because in 2023, last year, I published my own book away from any book distributing platform like Barnes & Noble, Amazon, independently. It was entitled The Algorithm of a Culture. I sold 100 exclusive copies for $100 each. It took me 30 days to sell that. So I knew that method worked. And so I just put it into my own publishing company, and that's how I want to partner with people to help grow my company, provide the different services, writing consultation, editing, self-publishing, podcast tutorials. I've helped the likes of like Whiz Bang Babble, with her podcast. I've done artist reviews and write-ups for Vibe Bionic. I'm in talks right now with doing stuff with Runt through Brickbox and Thunder Canyon Brewery. So there are many ways to make things happen as far as independence. I have my own LLC, 100% independent. The Algorithm of a Culture was exclusive in that there were only 100 copies for $100 each. Sold independently, it is not available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, nor any other book distributor like my other books. I charge $100 per book because I did 100% of the writing, editing, copyright, printing, packaging, distribution, sales, marketing, promotion, and shipping with 100% of my own money. I gave $1,000 of the proceeds as a call to action to one of the 100 purchasers once all 100 books were sold. I released the book on February 22nd, 2023, and it took exactly 30 days to sell all 100 copies through my social media platforms and hand-to-hand transactions from word of mouth.
How has Tucson's creative ecosystem affected your own creative passions?
That's a good question. Tucson is such a hodgepodge of weirdness, creativity, antiquity. So I think I pull from that eclecticism and I put it into my own scope as far as what I want to do. I'm a fan of the luminaries that I'm juxtaposed to. I have the opportunity to go into a studio like when I met my partner Fiona Phoenix, or a Cash Lansky, or a Tommy Will, or there's so many people. Yourself, you came here and instantaneously, from Boston, and you were able to see like the reservoir that you could tap into here and really do some amazing things. So it's an underdog city. To reference Cash Lansky, it's like Phoenix's little sibling. It's not really cool enough to get into the club or whatever, but we can go with anybody. And, that's part of what you and I have collaborated with the people that I know to show that these people are amazingly talented, and I just want to see everybody, including myself, on a national platform, a world scale.
I think it all kind of boils down to, like you said earlier, collaboration over competition. There's so many talented people here, and it's very easy to get caught up in, oh, this person's doing better than me, or I'm doing this, and I think the more collaborations that happen with this really incredibly talented creative ecosystem is how you kind of see that happen.
Yeah, and I want to give us credit. I think, what we've done in our efforts with this show is to help cross-pollinate the community, and I commend you. I've seen your work just grow and grow and grow, and, to work with different people and come out with these, amazing pieces of content and projects, like that was my vision from the beginning. I want to see everybody excel.
It's the goal, man.
Yeah.
Where can viewers find more info about you and your work, upcoming events and appearances, anything like that?
Everything is a three-man weave with me. Instagram, which is at Marquez_PRC. My website, www.mpricebooks.com, and my YouTube channel, which is, I believe, at teachonepublishingnetwork.com. I post all the time. All the information is always on there. So if you follow those three things, like, you're going to get something out of every day.
Well, we've been working together for probably close to 3 years now.
Yeah,
Pretty much since I moved here.
Yeah.
I think you were one of my first, you and Diego. But, you know, me and you have been consistently working together for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been amazing seeing everything you've accomplished in those 3 years and watching put book after book out, all these collaborations you're doing. So it's been great to see. I appreciate you taking the time to let me interview you for once.
Yeah. And I appreciate you switching roles with me and getting under these nice bright lights.
Yeah, I'm
expand the repertoire here.
definitely
you know?
more comfortable behind the camera, but, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
The interviewee dynamic is pretty interesting when you're able to turn the tables.
Yeah. But
and I also Gabby's doing some amazing work, Planet Gabu, and I want to say on camera that I need to get one of those jean jackets or some type of material so I can get my insignia,
we'll make it happen.
stitched on.
We can make that happen.
And I will pay the money for it, man, because I'm all also about stimulating everybody's economy.
Sure.
Yeah, so she's doing some amazing work. Both you guys are doing some amazing work. Myself and Fiona, we are looking at y'all and other couples to build up our empire, so we appreciate that as well.
Great. That's all I got for you. So
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. This is cool being in the side.
Nowadays the pain follow me. Deal with trauma privately. I don't wanna be a burden. I handle things defiantly. Spent a decade searching for a higher power guiding me. Figured out that faith is not up there, that it's inside of me. Act with execution. What's a plan with zero action? Faced with bad habits, knowing it's a magnet to my imbalance. I'm somewhere between confidence and arrogance. The middle ground is treacherous. I work on getting out of it. Pops is looking down.